Hello and welcome to the Fit Like a Girl podcast. My name is Jackie Lindahl. I am a mom of two, an avid coffee drinker, and a certified personal trainer. I have been in the fitness industry for nearly 10 years, and I help women get fit, strong, and lose weight without losing their damn minds. If you're looking for help on achieving your health, weight loss, and fitness goals without all the fitness industry confusion and BS, you have come to the right place. Hello and welcome back to the Fit Like a Girl podcast. My name is Jackie. Thank you so much for listening. So today I just kind of wanted to, we'll say, ramble on a few different topics. I do kind of have a topic, but it's going to be a lot of different things I am just currently been thinking about that I'm just going to ramble about. First things first, life update things. It is currently the beginning of December, and actually, in full disclosure, this is my second go at recording this podcast. I recorded this podcast last week and I was really excited about it. I thought that it was a good podcast episode, and then my computer didn't upload it and it lost it. So the system that I was using, I feel like I need to switch from and do something totally different. So I am switching it up now. I'm trying a new system today. This is whole new podcast recording thingamadigger, and we'll see how it goes with this new system. I have no idea. So anyways, I apologize that this podcast is having to be recorded a second time, and it may not be as great as the first time I recorded it, but I'm sorry. So life update things. It's the beginning of December. We are heading full force into the Christmas season. I was feeling really behind with the whole Christmas and everything, but now I'm feeling a little bit better. Yesterday, my husband and I went Christmas shopping. We got pretty much everything done, which is great. Of course, it was busy, and by the end of the day, we were both just just get it done. But we did get everything done, which makes me happy, and we got pretty much all the gifts and stuff, so yeah, that makes me super happy, and I'm feeling less oh shit, Christmas is upon us. What do I do? One thing that we did do, or that I've done over the past couple of years that I'm going to share this life hack with you, is because Christmas season always comes up and it's always such a financial, it's Christmas season. We got to spend all this money on gifts. Even if you have a reasonable budget for gifts and things like that, Christmas is expensive. So what I have been doing over the past couple of years, every time I go grocery shopping, which is once a week, once every 2 weeks, I will go to pay and I always get cash back. So I'll pay for my groceries, I'll get a little bit of money cash back, and then I put that in an envelope in my house that is Christmas money, and I don't touch it. So every week when I go shopping, I just get that little bit of money, or even every time I have to visit an ATM, say I got to pay cash for something and I go to the ATM, I'll pull out just a little bit extra and then I put it in my envelope for Christmas. And then I save up that money throughout the year so that we have a reasonable budget for Christmas. And honestly, it has been the best thing ever, because for so many years, we always felt like we kind of got caught with our pants down with Christmas. We're oh shit, yeah, Christmas is coming up. Now we got to spend all this money and all that kind of thing. Or, lots of people will put it on their credit cards and stuff like that this time of year. And then they deal with it in January. And I always just hated that. So past couple of years, I've been doing that. And it's honestly a life changer. And I'm not talking about substantial amounts of cash. I'm just talking a little bit here, a little bit there. And then it obviously it adds up throughout the year. You do it every week for 52 weeks throughout the year. And then you have a decent amount of cash set aside for Christmas. And my husband and I, for each other, we don't go all out with gifts or anything. We generally, this year we decided that we are actually going to take each other, we're just going to take the money that we would spend on each other for Christmas and we're just going to go shopping because we both need new clothes. My husband has the same t-shirts from 10 years ago. And I'll be honest, so do I. And we both just need some new clothes. So we're going to go and take ourselves shopping and get some stuff that we really want and need for ourselves. And then, yay, Merry Christmas to each other. So that honestly is my life hack for the Christmas season. Obviously, it's not going to help you very much this year, considering this podcast episode is going to come out in December. But for next year, it may be hugely helpful if you're like me and you feel every Christmas season you get caught with your pants down. You're oh shit, we have to buy gifts. This is going to be a lot of money. Other things, what else have I been doing lately? Not a whole lot. I've been
trying to ride my horse as much as humanly possible. Last week was really cold, so I did not ride her as much. It was cold and snowy and miserable all week. But I've just been trying to do anything that I can to keep her moving, keep her in shape. My oldest daughter and I started doing gymkhana together, which has been a lot of fun. So I get to kind of share that with my oldest, that kind of like horse loving thing. So we bring both of them in the trailer and we go to gymkhana together, and I will just lead her and her horse around and honestly, like, she really likes it. She's met a couple little friends there, and yeah, it's just been a lot of fun to kind of like share that with one of my kids, and I look forward to hopefully being able to share kind of those types of hobbies with them as they get older. And obviously, like, it's nothing I'm going to push on them. She wanted to come, she asked to come. Obviously, I'm not going to say no. Yeah, and it's been a lot of fun. Over the weekend, I went to my first like clinic, kind of like a seminar, I guess you'll call it, for horseback riding, and it was a lot of fun. I went to with a trainer, or a trainer that I have been following for like years. I found her on TikTok, and I didn't even know that she was Canadian, in Albertan at that. Because when I first started following her, I think she was just in the States. But anyways, I started following her, and I decided she was doing a clinic that was not too far from me, so I decided to go to it on the weekend. I'm glad I went. It was a lot of fun. Got to meet like some other people. Um, it was in the same town that I grew up in. So of course, like, everybody there either knew, people that were from that area, either knew my mom or they knew my sisters or whatever. So it was nice to kind of have that time for just my horse. It was like an all day thing. The weather was terrible for it. It was so cold outside. Thankfully, the barn was heated inside, but the roads to get there were awful. And I wasn't sure if I was going to go because the cold is one thing. I knew the barn was heated, so I could handle the cold, but it had snowed a lot the days leading up to this, and it was snowing the morning of. So I was awake at like 4:30 in the morning that day. I didn't have to be awake at 4:30 in the morning. Whenever I do gymkhana, horse things, anything like that, I never sleep good the night before. Really just anything. If I know that I have an event to be at the following day and I need to like leave the house at a certain time and all that, I never sleep good the night before. Like, even something as simple as my first aid that I just renewed a few weeks ago, I did not sleep good the night before because I was anxious about getting the girls up, getting them out of the house, making sure I got them off to daycare on time, and then getting to where I had to go on time. I'm always super anxious about that kind of stuff. So I didn't sleep very good at all the night before. I was just like wide awake at 4:30 in the morning. So by 5 o'clock, I was like, hey, fuck it. I'll just get up. And then I'm like sitting there in like the dark. I'm the only one awake. Checking the road report, checking the weather report, humming and hawing. Do I go? Do I not go? I could always, like, my thought was I could just start to go. And then by like 6:30, my husband got up because I think I woke him up and he just couldn't go back to sleep. My bad. And I was like sitting there talking to him about it, and he's like trying to have his morning coffee, and he's just like, do whatever you want to do. Do what feels right. If you don't want to go, he's like, then don't risk it. Don't go. If it's really important to you and you want to go, then go. And just text me along the way and make sure that you get there okay. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to drive down the road, and like the nearest town is 10 minutes down the road. If I get to that town and like the roads are shit, I'm just going to turn around and I'm going to come back home. And he was like, okay. So 7:30, like 7 in the morning, I loaded up my horse, got on the road. The initial highway getting there wasn't too bad. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the turnoff to the other highway. And then if that highway's bad, I'm going to turn around. And I got on the highway, and it wasn't great. It wasn't good, but it wasn't awful either. So I just slogged it really slow. I had like a lineup of cars behind me going into town, but I'm not that experienced with hauling, like with my trailer and stuff like that. And I just wanted to be safe. So I would much rather go slow and everything. When I went on the way home, the roads were much better. The snowplows had been out, and they were much better. Still went really slow because they were still kind of icy, but it was a lot better. So anyways, that's kind of what's new with me. Otherwise, yeah, we're just looking ahead into the Christmas season. December is a busy month, which is going to go by fast. I feel like December goes by so fast. You kind of look ahead to Christmas and you're like, oh my goodness, Christmas is like so far away. And then when you're an adult, it's like, oh shit, Christmas is coming up so fast. And yeah, so I feel like it's going to come and go really quickly this year. The topic that I wanted to get into today is my what I feel like are not so controversial opinions that for some odd reason feel controversial, even though they're not. I don't think I'm going to get through all the ones that I have listed, but I'm definitely going to get through a few because I want to actually like go into the nuances and talk about these things and why they really shouldn't be a controversial opinion, even if it kind of feels like it is. I'm just going to get right into these. Like I said, I don't think I'm going to get through them all, but we'll get in through as many as we like. First one, I'm just going to go in head first with probably like one of the most controversial topics of the day lately is Ozempic. And I am using the term Ozempic as an umbrella term for really just GLP-1 medications or just weight loss medications in general. Um, these medications, now I talked about this a few weeks ago, maybe like a month or so ago on my stories on Instagram as kind of like a nobody fucking cares about my opinion, but I was kind of asked about it, so here's my opinion. Even though it's not really much of an opinion, and I don't really feel like my opinion matters on this. But it's just one of those things that I've been thinking about a lot lately. And there's so many like pro Ozempic people or pro GLP-1 medication people and people who are so against it and it's super controversial. Listen, here is the thing. These medications can be helpful for people who really need them. Are they for every single person on this planet that wants to lose fucking 10 pounds? No. But these medications are can be game changers for people who really do need them. And it's completely okay for people to use these medications. There's a lot of stigma against using these medications. Even a lot of my clients kind of have this notion in their mind that using these medications is cheating. And we have a lot of conversations about how it's really not. And yes, there's side effects, potential complications, and things like that. But given that we are literally in an obesity epidemic in North America, I believe at the end of the day, it could have a potential net positive effect on the health of our society, which right now is not great. So a lot of people, when they're talking about Ozempic, they're really talking about just GLP-1 medications. There's many different types. There many different names for all the many different types. And Ozempic has just been used as like this umbrella term when really the generic version of Ozempic is called semaglutide. And it also goes by Wegovy, Ozempic. So it's like the generic name is semaglutide. The brand name is either Ozempic or Wegovy, or there's a whole bunch of other medications that fall underneath this category. And a lot of people are just using it as the umbrella term of Ozempic. So I actually went to a talk on this specific medication a few months ago. Dr. Crystal Rivera talked about these medications. She is a doctor who has been dealing with these types of medications and that kind of thing, help with clients for quite a long time. So I think what a lot of people don't really understand is that, number one, semaglutide has been on the market for quite a few years now. I believe it was 2017 when it came out onto the market. Like my grandmother has been on Ozempic I want to say she told me at least 5 years, if not longer. And for her, it's to help her control her diabetes. It came out on the market initially. I'm talking about semaglutide, Ozempic specifically, because there's a bunch of other medications that have been around a little bit longer. Some of them are newer. But semaglutide, my grandmother's been on it. I want to say she said for about 5 years, maybe not quite that long. Don't quote me on that. To help control her diabetes, because that's what it initially came out onto the market for. They did notice that this medication can also be helpful for people with weight loss, which Wegovy is approved for weight management and weight loss. Ozempic, even though it's the same medication, it's technically not approved for weight loss, but Wegovy is. And there's a whole bunch of other ones. There's liraglutide. I'm going to totally butcher this one. Terzapeptide, which is also known as Mounjaro. I totally butchered that one. But there's a bunch of different types of medications that all fall under this GLP-1 umbrella. And here's the thing. What these medications can do is they have some effects on the brain as well as effects on the gut. So it can help people feel more full longer between their meals, helps the brain recognize that your body and your stomach is full, helps with appetite suppression so that people who really struggle with food noise, constantly thinking about food, when's my next meal, when am I going to eat, I just ate but I'm hungry again. So people with heightened hunger, heightened food thoughts and all those kinds of things, it can limit that a little bit or bring it down so that it's not so severe. And then it also affects the gut in that it slows down your gastric emptying. So you feel more full in your stomach for longer, which in turn kind of decreases people's appetite, which helps them get into that calorie deficit to lose weight. Now, given that this is a medication, there are side effects to it. Any medication, yes, even Advil, has side effects, and it's up to an individual and their medical team to determine whether or not the pros or benefits of a medication outweigh potential risks or side effects of the medication. And this comes with any medication, right? Think about asthma medication. My husband is on asthma medication, has been all his life. There are side effects to the inhalers and stuff like that he uses. But the risk of not being able to fucking breathe and potentially dying far outweighs the potential risks of his inhalers and the side effects, just like any other medication. So that's where these medications shouldn't be for every Brad, Chad, and Dad who wants to lose 15 to 20 pounds. These medications should be used for people and populations who really need them, that are generally either pre-diabetic, insulin resistant, or quite overweight and are struggling to lose weight. And a lot of people will say, it's a quick fix. It's a quick fix. These people need to work on diet and exercise. Listen, anybody that I've talked to who are on these medications or have thought about going on these medications, they've tried the diet and exercise bullshit for years. They have yo-yo dieted. They've tried keto, paleo, Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, fucking herbal shake bullshit. They've tried it all and they have struggled for years and years and years. And it does sometimes come down to the potential health consequences of staying that overweight or that obese versus the potential side effects of a medication that's going to help them lose weight. Your medical team, you and your medical team may decide that it's worth it. Your medical team and you may decide that it's not worth it. That's where, again, this is for you and a doctor as an individual to decide, not your personal trainer or some health influencer online. But people will say it's a quick fix. It just gives people an excuse that they don't have to diet and exercise. Not at all. Lifestyle changes are still extremely important with these medications. Not just for the reason of if you go off these medications, not just for the reason that if you go off these medications, if you don't make the lifestyle changes while you're on the medication, you will gain the weight back. If you just go back to doing exactly what you've been doing all along or before going on the medication, and you don't make adjustments to your nutrition and you don't exercise, then the weight will come back. Very similar things happen with people who actually get gastric bypass surgeries, where you have a chunk taken out of your stomach. Essentially, it makes your stomach smaller. If you are not careful about how much you're eating and the food that you're putting into your body, the stomach will stretch back and you can gain all that weight back. So that's where lifestyle changes are super important. Not only for that reason, but also because your appetite is going to be blunted. What can happen if people are not careful about their diet and they're not strength training is they will lose a lot of muscle mass and actually not as much body fat as they were hoping to. So that's where strength training and making sure that you eat enough protein is super important so that you maintain as much muscle mass as possible, so that while you're in that severe calorie deficit because you're on this medication, your body's going to be looking to your extra stored body fat to make up for that calorie deficit rather than getting rid of your muscle. One last thing that people also need to be really careful about when it comes to this medication and their nutrition is fiber intake. Because of one of the side effects of this medication is slowed gastric emptying, people can become constipated on this medication. So that's where you got to get enough fiber, you got to drink enough water. So these medications are to be used as an aid to help make the playing field level, we'll say. And you still need to have the lifestyle interventions just as much as anybody else. And I think that's where a lot of people get really confused about, is they think that it's just a fix-all, I don't have to do anything, or people who are on them don't have to do anything, which is not the case whatsoever. And anybody who's been on these medications knows that. And obviously it's a lot of people who haven't been on these medications that don't know that. Are there some potential serious side effects with these medications? Sure. There have been talks about like potential issues with pancreatitis, potential issues with cancers. But on the other hand, people who are obese are already at risk for things like pancreatitis, cancers, and things like that, just by having a large amount of excess body fat on their body. This isn't me trying to shame anybody for any size. Yes, you can be healthy at any size. There just are some risks that can go along with having some extra body fat on your body. That's just how it is. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. Again, I don't feel like my opinion is controversial at all. I feel like it's a very pragmatic opinion. And I've had tons of conversations with clients about these medications. And how I always structure the conversation if a client brings it up is, here's some potential advantages of this medication. Here's some things that you need to keep in mind with these medications. Here's some possible side effects. I give them, feedback. I have a few clients who have been on these medications. So I give them feedback about, here's some clients that it's really helpful. And I have a client that's on it right now, and it's been fucking life-changing for her. Like, fucking life-changing. I cannot tell you enough. And I have another client that went on it and found that she felt quite sick all the time. She felt quite nauseous a lot, was constipated a lot, and she decided to go off of it because it just was not for her. And that's fair, and that's valid. And I always tell them, this is a conversation for you and your medical team to talk about, and you decide what's right for you, and I will support you no matter what you choose. Because that's my job as a trainer. My job as a trainer is not to tell you what to do or not do, because I'm not your fucking doctor. My job as a trainer is just to, have a conversation with you, urge you to talk to your doctor, and then you come back to me with what you've decided, and we go from there. So anyways, that's where I don't think that my, opinion is all that controversial. And, some people might be mad about that, and that's okay. Anyways, that went along a lot longer than I thought it would. Point number 2. Of things that I don't feel like are controversial at all, but for some odd reason, people like to be mad about it or feel like they are controversial, is everybody needs to and should exercise in some capacity. Regardless of your age, regardless of where you're at in life, everybody needs to and should exercise. Now, here's the thing. I said exercise. I didn't say run a fucking marathon. I didn't say lift weights 3 days a week. I didn't say do something that you're going to hurt yourself. I mean exercise as in move your body. We do not move enough in our society, especially our North American society. We don't move enough. That's pretty fucking clear and dry that we just simply don't move enough as a society. And I do feel like everybody should be able to exercise, move their body in a positive way, whether it is walking, dancing, whether it's yoga, whether it's, bar class, whether it's just taking your kids to a playground and playing with them, whether it's running a marathon, whether it is lifting weights, whether it is doing something else, swimming, whatever. Everybody needs to and should be moving their body in some capacity. We as human beings, as Homo sapiens, are built to move. We're not built to sit in a fucking computer chair and not move all day. I say this as I sit in a fucking computer chair that I've been sitting in all day, but I will move after this. Everybody needs to and should be exercising in some capacity. Movement helps create more movement. Movement requires energy, yes, but it also helps give you energy. You're making yourself more resilient to stress. You're making your body more resilient to things like injuries and injuries, sickness, all that kind of stuff by just moving. And again, this isn't me saying that everybody needs to lift weights 3 days a week or everybody should be fucking running, because I know that not everybody has that capacity, but everybody should have some form of a movement that they can do to keep themselves active. Even 90-year-old people, you'll see people in elderly homes and old folks homes and stuff, they have little exercise classes. They'll do little dancing classes and things like that. Because movement is so positive for your body, for your brain, for your energy, for your mood, everything. Even kids. I like to make sure that my kids get outside, even in the wintertime, as much as they can, within reason. I'm not a monster that's making my kids go outside in minus 40 degrees Celsius, but that they should be moving. They should be doing something, because it's not good for them to have all this energy in their tiny little bodies and not being able to have an output for it. So just everybody needs to and should be exercising in some capacity to help make themselves healthier, both inside, outside, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually healthier. I feel like that shouldn't be controversial, but there's going to be somebody on the fucking internet somewhere that'll get mad about something like that. Number 3, I'm going to own up to a shortcoming that I had when I first kind of got into the fitness industry, and maybe even when I was younger, before I was in the fitness industry, a bias, we'll call it, and a shortcoming that I had. In that I used to think that people who were obese were lazy. And I was wrong. I was very wrong. Because it is so much more complicated than people just being lazy. I used to think that people who were obese or overweight, they just didn't want to be healthy, or they didn't know how to be healthy, or anything like that. And I didn't realize how much more complicated it is, and it's not just a black and white situation. There's so many genetic, environmental, social, medical things, and even more beyond that, that tie into obesity that we don't realize. And even things like economics can tie into this as well. And it's a shortcoming that I had that I didn't realize. And thankfully, through, learning more, immersing myself more in the fitness industry, and being open-minded, learning that it's not such a black and white issue. And thankfully, actually, there are people like Spencer Nadolsky and his brother Carl Nadolsky, who I had on the podcast earlier this year, who openly talk about these kinds of things and talk about, like, yes, obesity has harmful effects on your health. It does. But it doesn't mean that you just tell somebody to eat less and move more. It's so much more complicated than people realize. And not only that, that just because somebody is overweight or obese, that they should not be treated fucking less than. Or that every single time they sneeze, oh, it's because you're overweight, you need to lose weight, which is what a lot of people get told by their doctors and their medical professionals, where they have this bias against people who are overweight or obese, and they just think everything comes down to, oh, you just need to lose weight. Oh, you just need to lose weight. Just eat less. Just continue to eat less, even though maybe there's something else going on that they don't really realize, or whatever they are dealing with right now has fucking nothing to do with their weight. But yet the doctor will still feel a need to bring it up. And I feel like that's a very big, like, societal issue, and a lot of it coming to our medical systems here in North America. But just that it's more complicated than people realize. It's not just because people are lazy. There's a lot of factors that go into it that people don't realize. And this is why we have considered obesity a disease, because then we can look into treatments to help people with it, that go beyond just telling them just eat in a calorie deficit and exercise. Yes, it always comes down to a calorie deficit to lose weight, but there's other factors to consider. So yes, this was a shortcoming and a bias that I had, and I'm glad that I have now learned for the better and grew a brain. Unfortunately, there's a lot of stigma still in the fitness industry about this, and there's a lot of people who still have a very old school thought around it. And I'm hoping that, with further education and further things out there, that people can kind of change their minds and see what's actually going on here. Again, this doesn't negate the facts that people who are obese do have an increased risk for harmful side effects and potential health issues. Yes. Higher increased risk of heart disease, higher increased risk of cancers, higher increased risk of thyroid issues, reproductive issues. Yes, those are true. It's very true. Increased pain, arthritis, increased risk of injury. Yes, though that is true. And that there are some factors that may not be within your control in terms of potential, hormonal issues, genetic things, that kind of thing. But it doesn't mean that it is all outside of your control and that there aren't some factors that for your health could be within your control as a person. But just, I think people need to understand that it is more complicated than we realize, and maybe just don't be a fucking asshole. I don't know. This seems pretty cut and dry. So that was number 3. Number 4. This is just something I've been mulling over. I mean, I've been mulling over this one for 10 years plus now. That people are just so removed from their food nowadays and how it gets on their plate. And this isn't in a like big food and farmers are going to kill us. This is just in a knowledge thing. If we go back a couple generations, kind of like to our grandfathers, our great grandfathers, less than 100 years ago, almost everybody farmed or had a garden or hunted or whatever. And then over the past few years with, furthering the Industrial Revolution, with processing, working on removing food deserts, all that kind of stuff, we have had so much more access to food, which can be so great in a lot of ways, but also detrimental in a lot of ways in that we don't understand how that food gets from a field to our plate anymore. And I didn't really realize this. So I grew up on a farm, in a farming community, in a farming town, where everybody that I went to school with in my smaller town school, they either grew up on a farm or had like a family member who farmed, their grandpa, their uncle, whatever. It was a farming town, a farming community. I went, and then when I moved away from that, and I moved to the city, that was when it dawned on me how far people are removed from their food. And when I was going to school to take my schooling for registered veterinary technician, we talked a lot of what we had to, or part of what we had to learn about was large animals and some things about agriculture and farming and stuff, and kind of the myths and things like that a lot of the myths and fallacies that are out there about our food and what farmers do to their animals and the things that are in our food. There's still tons of people that believe that there's antibiotics in our meat and eggs when there isn't. There's lots of people that believe that there's still antibiotics and things like that in our milk, which there isn't. Growing up in a dairy farm, I can tell you for sure that there isn't. People just have no idea. And it's one of the many reasons why I like growing a garden. My mom grew a garden, my grandma grew a garden, like my family is a lot of gardeners, so I like growing a garden. It's one of the main reasons I don't talk about this a whole lot because, again, it's a controversial topic, but my husband hunts. And he hunts for deer, and that's the majority of our red meat that we eat is deer that we hunted ourselves. I had chickens for a while. Then they stopped laying and they got old and I had to butcher them. That wasn't a fun day, but I did. I like doing these things because I like to know where my food comes from and how it gets there. That being said, I do not deny myself McDonald's, and I fucking shop at Walmart, you guys. Okay. So like, I'm getting my groceries at Walmart and Costco, and I also will have my husband tromp around the bush looking for a deer for meat for our freezer. So like, I feel like we have a decent balance in it. And this isn't me getting on my soapbox saying like, oh, the way that we do things is so much better than other people. But I just wish that people kind of looked into agriculture a little bit more and understood where their food came from and had a better appreciation for farmers instead of thinking all farmers are out to fucking kill people when they're not. They just want to try to survive until next year so that they can try to survive till the year after that. But again, I'm realistic about it. Like, I shop at fucking Walmart. We talked about that. But yeah, it's just one of those things that, if you ate today, thank a farmer. Supporting your local farmers, going to the How to Write colonies and things like that can be helpful to just not only support small businesses, support farmers. It's just kind of one of those things, or just researching into agriculture and learning more about it and kind of just having a more open mind instead of like, oh, every farmer out there is trying to kill it. Number 5, and I think I'm going to cap it at that. If people like this podcast, then I might do another one. But number 5, I'm going to go on a bit of a vent. People take things way too fucking seriously on the internet and need to go fucking touch grass now and then. I don't remember society getting so offended about every little thing. And this kind of makes me feel like I'm like a boomer and like, rah, things ain't what they used to be. But part of me is like, honestly, when did people start getting so fucking upset over every little comment, video, whatever it is, and think that everything is serious? Sometimes it's a joke. Sometimes it's just people lying on the internet just to get attention, and people don't like see that. And I feel like a lot of times, and myself included, we need to just put our phones down and go outside and fucking touch grass. Like, I hate how addicted I am to this stupid thing. This is my phone that I'm holding in my hand for those listening. I hate how addicted I am to this thing. I don't really love that social media is like, I have a love-hate relationship with social media. I love some things about it because I've learned a lot on social media, little tips, little tricks, things like that, information, like, getting to know and kind of like meet people from across the world. Like, social media can be super cool. But then it can be also super fucking annoying because everybody takes everything too seriously and literally, and just, a little while ago, I posted like a half joke, half like fantasy, where it was a day that I got my period and I was PMSing and I had cramps and I was in a mood. It was just one of those days. And I posted on Threads something like, I'm done having kids. I'm over having my period. Can't I just get a doctor to just like yeet my uterus? Like, just take it out. Hysterectomy, just gone. I don't have to have my period anymore. It was half joking, half like, maybe for real. Either way, it's my body. And all like, I had lots of people that understood that it was a fucking joke. But then I would have comments of people being like, good luck having early menopause, or you don't understand what that surgery's like. And then some people being like, well, at least you can have children. Or some woman being like, I wish I could menstruate. Why don't you appreciate? I'm like, the fuck is going on here? Like, this was a joke. Put your fucking phone down, Brenda, and go outside. Go for a walk. Like, what is, people just getting so offended over like a fucking nobody from Alberta, Canada, just posting about how she's pissy and tired of having menstrual cramps, and you take everything that she says to heart and you somehow make it about yourself. Like, just put the phone down, go outside. Just put it down, go outside. Not everything is about you. And I really, really don't engage anymore in like fights and things like that on the internet. Like, if somebody wants to leave a comment on my shit that's negative, fucking go for it. If it's bad, I'll block them because I ain't got time for that. I'm over it. If not, I'll just leave it, or I'll put like a nice comment and I'm not engaging in your fight anymore, because it's a social media. It's not real life. It's not reality. It's not reality. People don't post real shit on the internet. They're posting like fake shit, or their curated shit, or their highlight. Anyways, at the end of the day, if something offends you on the internet, evaluate with yourself why it offends you. And if it's really not that serious, just chill. Just chill. Not everything is meant to be about you or targeted for you or whatever. Sometimes people just need to go outside and fucking touch grass. Yes, this was me kind of getting on my soapbox today. I apologize. If you like this podcast episode, please feel free to subscribe and leave a 5-star written review. If you didn't like this episode, maybe it just wasn't your style. If you choose to unsubscribe, fair enough. And we'll just leave it at that. If you have questions about my online training options, please feel free to head to my website, www.fitlikeagirl.ca. If you haven't already, please feel free to follow me on Instagram. I will post the link for that in the show notes. And I also have a free Facebook group for women to join. Just a helpful, fun, supportive community where I post different content and tips and things like that in there for that community. So I'll also post the link for that in there. And I just want to say thank you so much for listening to this episode, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Talk to you later.